back to my channel. My name is Hope and I'm a photographer that serves both Charleston and Savannah, and this YouTube channel is where I share education for photographers as well as a little bit of a peek into my life living in the Low Country. And today we are going to be talking about how I began my business as a high school student, because if you're new around here, you might not know this about me, but I actually started my photography business when I was only 16 years old. So I was a junior in high school when I started taking pictures for fun, and it escalated very quickly into a business during my senior year and then into my full-time career immediately after graduating high school. So I think that's a very unique part of my story that also gives me a really unique perspective on marketing when we're talking specifically about senior portrait clients. Because I was marketing to and photographing my senior peers the entire time I was growing my business, and now I'm a decade into being a full-time photographer, and my entire business was built on those first few years of photographing high school seniors. Also, my puppy is playing at my feet right now, so if you hear that, that's what that is. But I want to talk about a few things that I think really allowed me to scale a business from being just a hobby as a 16-year-old to being my full-time salary within enough time to graduate high school as a full-time business owner. So I get questions all the time, like, how did you start so young? How did you get people to trust you? How did you grow so quickly from a hobby to a full-time business? And I want to touch on a few different things from a marketing and a strategy perspective that I think will, one, help photographers grow their businesses in general, but two, speak specifically to my younger viewers who might be wanting to start a business in high school or at a young age. And I want to speak to how I was able to do that and earn the trust of clients that were 10 plus years older than me. So first things first is that I was making myself appear to be in demand very strategically. And when I say that, I don't mean that I was lying or being dishonest, but I do mean that I was being very intentional about going out and creating new content to be sharing every single day. And Instagram looks a little bit different now than it did when I was starting my business, but I think the same principle still applies, that the more new content you can share and the more you can make yourself appear to be in demand by always having new things to post, the better your business is going to be and the faster you are going to grow. So right now in 2022, that might look like creating a lot of reels and short form video. But for me, back in 2013, 2014, that looked like going out and doing shoots all the time, taking pictures of my peers all the time, and sharing behind the scenes, sharing the final images, sharing images for me working in my office, sharing pictures of my laptop screen when I was editing for hours on end. I was going out of my way to create content that, one, made it very obvious that I was taking myself seriously. I was very intentional about making myself appear to be in demand by posting behind the scenes from the shoots that I was doing, even if they were free shoots. I was making it appear like I was just so booked up that people needed to email me now or they weren't going to get a spot. I was posting the final images. I was posting iPhone images of me working at my desk. I was posting pictures of my laptop screen when I was editing for hours on end. I was going out of my way to make it very clear that I was taking myself seriously, because I knew, especially at that young age, nobody else was going to take me seriously if I didn't take myself seriously. So I was actually made fun of a lot by my high school peers, because the kind of general consensus was, who does this girl think she is? Why is she pretending to be a professional when she's just a 16-year-old with a used camera from eBay? But looking back, I truly believe that the fact that I was willing to put myself out there and take myself seriously and present myself as a professional, even far before I actually was, heavily contributed to how quickly my business grew and how I was able to earn the trust of people that were decades older than me. That's number one, making yourself appear to be in demand, being strategic about the content that you're sharing and going out of your way to create that content. So to everybody else, from their perspective, you are so booked and busy and working hard to grow your business, and they better email you fast or they're never going to get a spot to work with you. That's number one. Number two is that I stopped sharing any age-specific content on social media. And I don't necessarily mean that I stopped being a teenager or stopped being a high school student. I still talked about things like prom and things like that, but I wasn't sharing selfies, like mirror selfies like my friends, and I wasn't sharing selfies from football games, and I wasn't sharing anything that would be considered unprofessional, like pictures of me going to parties or hanging out with my friends. I was very much drawing the line of professionalism and making sure that it wasn't blatantly clear to my audience that I barely had a driver's license. I was trying to really present myself professionally by not posting anything that could appear to be immature or unprofessional. And that's something that I think it won't be controversial, but some people will have strong opinions on, that teenagers should be teenagers and you shouldn't get rid of that season of your life or surpass that season of your life because it's fun. And I completely agree. I think that you can have maybe a private account for your friends to follow where you post the usual high school content, but I do think there's something to be said for a level of professionalism in your social media sharing and in your content, even if you are a high schooler, to gain people's trust and appear to be even more professional than you are. Number 3, the third thing that I was doing very strategically and intentionally, even as a 16-year-old, is that I was using all of my money to pour back into my business. And I think looking back, that was a really hard thing to do because I went from making $7.25 an hour minimum wage to $50, $100, up to $350 for an hour-long portrait session by the time I graduated high school. And to go from minimum wage to $350 in an hour, I felt like I was rolling in it. I was like, I am making so much money. But I was very intentional that I didn't blow that money irresponsibly, which would have been very easy for me to do at that age. I could have just gone out and gone shopping. I could have bought a car or just made some very irresponsible decisions. And instead, I took every single penny that I made because I wanted to be intentional about the fact that because I was 16 and 17, I didn't have any overhead expenses. I didn't have car payments, house payments, expenses at all. I was still on my parents' phone bill and everything. And so I wanted to be very smart about taking that money and pouring it back into my business while I had the ability to do that. So anytime I would book a $350 session and immediately spend that $350 on a new lens. I was saving my money and using it very strategically. And one of the biggest places that I spent arguably the most money in those first 3 years was in my education. And I feel like this is going to come across as me trying to pitch you on buying my education because I'm an educator now. And I'm not even going to talk about my stuff. I am talking about what I invested tens of thousands of dollars in the first 3 years of my business. And all of those things were pivotal in the growth of my business because I truly believe in the power of not just education, but also networking and surrounding yourself with other people who are creative and have the same goals and are going to push you forward. The education I learned combined with the relationships I made in those first 2 to 3 years because I invested money back into workshops and in-person conferences and mentoring sessions are completely irreplaceable. I would not be where I am if I did not spend that money in education. So whether you're in that unique position of being a young high schooler and getting to pour your money back into your business, or you are somebody who's just starting a business as a mom and you have tons of overhead expenses, I do think there is power in saving and budgeting to invest back in yourself in the form of education or networking events. I truly believe that those things were completely invaluable to the growth of my business and that they are worth investing in. So I hope this was interesting. I hope it was helpful to see a little bit of insight and hear my thoughts on how I began my business as a 16 and 17-year-old and how I made that work into a full-time career 10 years later. So I hope this video was helpful. I hope it was interesting to hear some thoughts on how I was able to take something that I did at 16 years old and turn it into now a full-time multi-six-figure career 10 years later. I truly believe in the power of everything that I shared in this video. And if you enjoyed watching, I would love to have you subscribe. My goal is to hit 10,000 subscribers this year. I post new videos every single week to help photographers grow their businesses. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next week. Bye.